You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the SDSU Football Podcast. I'm Andre Hagverdian, and joined, as always, by Paul Garrison. This is the first episode of 2023, so Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there. Hope you guys had a great holiday. Hopefully the new year will bring great things for all of you, including all of San Diego State Athletics football team and basketball team. Obviously, the basketball team is going through their conference season currently, while the football team season ended with the loss in the Hawaii Bowl to Middle Tennessee State University. For today's episode, we've got two great interviews with two of the newest San Diego State Aztec football players from the 2023 signing class. One is a JUCO transfer, and the other is an incoming freshman. Hope you guys enjoy those, so let's get to them. Our first guest today is Talib the General Salahuddin, who is a defensive lineman from Riverside Community College in Riverside, California. He's a JUCO transfer who will be joining the Aztecs in January and taking part in winter conditioning and spring camp. So, Talib played 2 seasons at Riverside City College, appeared in 22 games, and helped the Tigers to the 2022 CCCAA Football State Championship game. In his 2 seasons there, Talib totaled 65 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 8.5 tackles for loss. Played high school in Chaminade College Prep in West Hills, California, but is originally from Philadelphia, his hometown. He goes by the nickname The General, so it was great catching up with him and getting to know him better, and hopefully Aztec Nation will enjoy this episode. We want to welcome Talib Salahuddin to the podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good today. Doing great.
Thank you for taking the time. Last week was early signing day. You're a junior college transfer, but it was also an opportunity for you to sign your grant and aid with San Diego State. So how did it feel to finally becoming an Aztec?
Honestly, it felt great. It's been a long time coming. I've been in communications with San Diego State since I was in high school. So it's really just been a long time coming. I've known this coaching staff for a long time. They've had trusted me and they've put faith in me, and I'm grateful to be here.
Take us through your recruiting process as a JUCO player at Riverside Community College. You said San Diego State has been talking to you since high school. What other schools were you considering, and why ultimately was San Diego State where you chose?
During JUCO, I got my first offer last summer before season at San Jose State. Got that right before season, right before fall camp. I went to a San Jose camp, and the D-line coach really liked me, liked what I had to do. Went up there one more time for a workout, and I got my first offer. After that, I was back on San Diego's map because before that, they talked to me in high school. They told me to go JUCO route. I went JUCO route. They came out to a few practices when I was a freshman. I wasn't really up to par last year, and I know that. So they held off, and so I just got back in the lab. I got working, and after I got San Jose, it just more and more attention started flooding in. So I got San Jose. Then a few months later, I got Hawaii. After that came to practice, and then they just started coming in after that. Then there was, after Hawaii, there was Eastern Illinois. I had Bryant University, as well as one more, University of Incarnate Word. And then finally, at San Diego State was my last offer. That just felt great because I was waiting on that one for a long time. And after that, I kind of knew I was going to be an Aztec. I was just biding time and waiting.
Well, congrats on that, man. It's amazing to come through that process. But for all the people who are going to be hearing this, how would you describe your game, and what is Aztec Nation going to be able to see in you in the coming years?
I describe my game as more than anything aggressive. That's my main focal point. I like to be aggressive at the point of attack and through all points of the game. You should expect to see some long play, got long arms, one of my special moves. Expect to see some dominance and a little bit of leadership throughout the season.
And then you were just describing, wanting to get that San Diego State offer. You obviously went on an official visit a couple of weeks ago. What was that visit like? The culmination of all that hard work, and who was your host, and maybe just some of the other highlights.
So that San Diego State visit was my first and only college visit. I took an unofficial visit to San Jose, but that wasn't really official. This official visit was just amazing. They wined and dined us. They put us in a nice hotel right on the beach, nice view. We ate 5-star food, at least to me. Had filet mignon for the first time. It was really nice. I had two hosts, basically. Trey, he's on the defense, and Darian Dalton, also on the defense. Those are just real great guys. They brought me in, as well as the other players, just made me feel welcome, made me even more confident in my decision to commit.
Now, San Diego State's release put you on a defensive line. San Diego State runs a 3-3-5. Coach Maddox loves to move around his guys, especially on the defensive line. Where do you feel like you fit in best, and how's your versatility to play either as a D end, a D tackle, or an outside linebacker?
Honestly, I'm just trying to get in where I fit in. Coach Maddox can put me anywhere on the field, and knowing me and knowing my work ethic, you can hope to see some results. Playing D-line, I played D tackle, a lot of outside edge, a lot of standing up, a lot of drop back, and a lot of outside linebackers. So I have a lot of versatility. Even played a little bit of corner. Just saying, a lot of versatility. So he can put me wherever he wants, and I'll commit myself to learning the technique and learning the plays, learning whatever I need to do to play.
I got to hear the cornerback story, man. What did you just say? You play corner?
Yes, actually. My last game as a junior college player, state championship. Because before I'd been man on the tight ends, and coach said, I don't care where he goes, you're man on him, even if he flexes out. So at least 2 or 3 times he flexed out to the wideout position, and I'm playing inside leverage, and they did not catch a ball. So anywhere.
So your first time playing cornerback was in the title game?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we lost, but they didn't do that. They did not catch that ball.
That's amazing.
Nice. The defensive line coach at San Diego State is Justin Enna, but the head coach, Brady Hoke, is a defensive line specialist or specialist coach. So you kind of have the best of both worlds with the actual head coach being very involved with the D-line. What are your thoughts about working with both Coach Enna and Coach Hoke?
I'm ecstatic. I've heard a lot of great things about Coach Hoke, and I've known Coach Enna for some time now. So I'm excited to learn from both of them, especially from Coach Hoke. He's just been, especially on that official visit, he brought me in and he made it known that he was going to be present in my future development, and it just really made me feel welcome.
Where did your prior relationship with Coach Enna come from? Did he recruit you before he got to San Diego State?
No, actually. During playoffs as a freshman, he was the D-line coach. No, he's the outside linebackers coach at Dixie State, now Utah Tech. He came to one of our practices. It was at night. We had just finished running. Coach Enna was on the field. Me being a JUCO player, me just want to get my name out there. I go and introduce myself to him and his D-line coach. And I just sit there. I talk to him for maybe 30, 40 minutes before I go back in the locker room. And then that's just how I knew Coach Enna. It's funny because on the unofficial visit, I didn't know who the D-line coach was. I was just out there with me and my buddies. So I get there. I see Coach Enna. And he's wearing a San Diego State coach. And I'm talking to him. And he's asking me all these sorts of questions. I was like, all right, this is really cool. This is a nice coach. But why is he here? Why is he wearing a San Diego State coach? I thought he was at Dixie State. And then after 30 minutes of talking to him, right before the game, I see him doing the D-line drills, and I look at my friends, and they look at me, and like, wow, that's a D-line coach, and I didn't know this whole time.
Nice.
That's wild. I think from you mentioned the 5-star food that you had on your visit. From what we understand, Coach Hoke picks those personally. So I'm sure be very happy to hear that It's 5-star to you, man.
All right.
So Jonah Tavai, he's was an All-American this year. I think he's third all time at San Diego State in sacks in a career. He came from the JUCO ranks, and it took him more than a year to be able to get fully acclimated and to have the dominance that we've seen from him. And a lot of JUCO players, they seem to have that same year of adjustment. You know about this better than I do. Why is it that there is that adjustment from that step up in competition from the JUCO ranks to the D1 ranks?
Well, while I agree, or I can say that the JUCO life is not easy, I believe it's pretty hard. It's nothing like D1 from my understanding. D1 will just move a lot faster, it'll hit a lot harder. Most people aren't used to playing 13 season games, and that weighs a lot on them. But me being at Riverside City College, played in 25 games, missed the 26 one game because of COVID, but I've been played in 2 13-game seasons. So I know a lot of people expect JUCO players to have that year of development. I don't expect to see that for myself. I'm hoping to come in and make an immediate impact.
So then what is it that you are working on, between now and, spring camp, January winter conditioning, et cetera, that you're really focused on to do what you just said and hit the ground running as an asset in your first season?
The main thing I've been working on so far has been my speed, putting on weight, and just my general technique. I've been drilling that a lot with my former teammates and with my new teammates. So with my speed training as well as my strength training as well as San Diego State strength training, I believe I'll be on the right track.
Before we hit record, you were talking about how you're in the process of moving into your apartment in San Diego. So will you be enrolling in January semester and taking part in all of those activities with the team?
Yeah. Yes. I was very adamant about leaving mid-year because I wanted to hit the ground running, to go through winter training, go through spring training, go through summer, to have all that stacked under my belt. I've actually already moved in, so it's been a process. But yes, I will be here for January, and I will be taking place with all the activities on the team.
Cool. And then with your eligibility, you played 2 years at Riverside. Do you technically have 3 years to play 2? How many years do you have?
I have 3 years to play 2, including my redshirt year. Not exactly planning on taking that year, so hopefully I'll get a good 2 seasons in.
Now, with San Diego State, there's been a lot of buzz in the media and otherwise about conference realignment, possibly moving to the Pac-12, possibly moving to the Big 12, et cetera. Have you been paying attention to that, and what are your general thoughts on that topic?
Initially, because I'd been planning on committing for some time, even before the news was announced. But after the coaches that sent me that fired me up even more, there's just better competition. I believe competition can only make you better. So I can't wait to get some big film against Colorado next year, mainly. That's what I'm hoping for.
Why Colorado?
Prime time and his new thing he got going. He's creating a super team. It'll just mean a lot to me to dismantle a super team.
That's a great answer. You went to high school in LA, but your SDSU bio has your hometown in Philadelphia. Is that where you were born, and at what age, what was that process of moving around and finally becoming, I guess, Californian?
So originally I was born in Atlanta and raised in Philly as well as Atlanta, going back and forth. So been moving around a lot my whole life. 2016, we moved from Philly to California. Lived out there in the Valley for some time. I started playing football my freshman year. And from there, that's just how I became a Californian. I've been in here since 2016. And I've loved my experience in California. It's taught me a lot. It's where I've grown. It's where I've become a young adult. And it's where, hopefully, graduate college.
I think as part of your official visit, did you get a tour of Snapdragon Stadium?
Yes.
And then did you come down for a game this season?
During my bye week, I came down and I saw the Hawaii game, San Diego State versus Hawaii. That unofficial visit, it opened my eyes. It really turned me on to San Diego State and what they had to offer, especially their fight within the fourth quarter to come back and win. That it just showed me what it means to be an Aztec.
since you're a new incoming Aztec, as a way to get Aztec fans to kind of get to know you better, we have some quick rapid fire questions for you. Ready for those?
Yep.
What's your favorite food?
Burritos.
Any particular kind of burrito?
I love a good chicken burrito, Chipotle, or anything.
So San Diego is known for California burritos. Have you heard about those yet?
Yeah, big fan of those. There's this Casaneda's Mexican restaurant right next to my house in Riverside, former house. Went there every other week. Got me a nice 1 pound California burrito. It's good for calories.
Yep. What about your favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future 2, and my favorite show is Game of Thrones.
Nice. What is it? Brady Nasser has said Game of Thrones as well on the recent episode, so you definitely have that connection going with him.
That's good.
I'm a little confused though. How does someone your age have Back to the Future 2 as their favorite movie? Like, where did that come in?
I've seen Back to the Future at least a dozen times. My family has always loved movies. We used to have it on DVD. I've seen it at least twice within this last year. Just love movies. I love old movies in particular. This other movie, it's called Small Soldiers. It's also from the 90s. Great movie. One of my top 3.
Awesome.
What about favorite musical artist or group?
If I had to pick a favorite artist right now, it'd probably be Lil Baby right now, or Lil Yachty. One of those two.
Nice. Favorite professional athlete?
I want to say Nick Bosa.
Okay. What do you like about Nick Bosa?
I really just love his explosive playing style and the way he can dismantle an offensive lineman.
He's probably up for defensive player of the year this year. I think either him or Micah Parsons probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's had a great year. Favorite hobby? When you're not playing football or working on football, what do you like to do?
When I'm not doing any football-related activities, I'm usually either on my PlayStation or I'm drawing or reading. Sometimes it's just taking a nice walk or maybe just going outside or working out or just straight up cooking. I love to cook.
So give me a recipe, man. What is it that you what are some of the things you enjoy cooking?
I think my most favorite recipe is my jambalaya. Made that many times for my teammates in the past, and they always ask for more.
Awesome.
Last question. What will you be majoring in at San Diego State? What are you looking to do in terms of schooling?
I'm looking to major in marketing and minor in graphic design. Coming in, though, I will be an economics major for the now until I'll be able to switch my major back to marketing. I have to do this for what they said, clearance reasons or something like that. So hopefully I'll be able to switch it back to marketing. But my goal is, if the football thing doesn't exactly plan out, I want to work for some sort of animation company or some sort of moving company, and I want to work on the trailers or work on the advertisement for that.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I'd love to work for like Marvel or Disney, mainly because I'd love free tickets to their movies, but
who doesn't love free tickets?
That's great.
Talib, thank you so much. It was cool chatting with you and getting to know you. Welcome to San Diego. We look forward to seeing you out there for spring practice and then in the fall for the games.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a good night.
Our second guest today is quarterback Javance Tupouata-Johnson, who will be an incoming freshman at San Diego State as part of the class of 2023. Javance is 6'4" and weighs 205 pounds. He's originally from Oakland, California. He played his senior year of high school at Chaminade College Prep in West Hills, California. Yes, the same high school that Talib Salahuddin played at, although their years did not overlap. He spent his first 3 years of high school at Notre Dame High in Sherman Oaks, California. In his senior year, he led the Eagles to a 10-3 record and a California Division II semifinal playoff run. His high school, Chaminade, finished 19th in the state in the final Max Prep rankings. He captured first-team All-Mission League honors as a senior, throwing for 1,679 yards and 15 touchdowns, and also rushed for 803 yards and 13 touchdowns. 247 Sports graded him as a 3-star recruit, and ESPN has him as the 16th best dual-threat quarterback in the country in his class, and the 79th best player from California. It was great to catch up and get to know Javance a little bit better, and hope you guys enjoy the interview.
We want to welcome Javance Tupouata-Johnson to the podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. Last week was early signing day. You made an official signing with San Diego State. So how does it feel to finally become an Aztec?
It feels good. I'm grateful for the recruiting process, obviously, but just happy to get it over with, all that stress, and let off my parents and I's shoulders. So, it was good.
Take us through that stressful process of recruiting, how has San Diego State fit into that, especially when you first committed to becoming an Aztec in the summer?
It's just a lot of great schools out there in the country, a lot of great coaches, and obviously you have to build a relationship with these coaches and then see the school, obviously, and see how you see yourself in the school. So, that was the most stressful part about it. But when I took the official visit to San Diego State, everything just felt right. Obviously, Coach Heck was recruiting me when he was there, but obviously not there anymore. But even then, Coach Lindley came in, called me as soon as he got the job and everything. So just that, I trust him with everything. So that was why I made the decision.
So, take us a little bit through that process, because, you mentioned Coach Heck was the, obviously OC QB coach. You didn't decommit or anything of that nature, but were you close to reconsidering your process?
Obviously, I think everybody saw there's a couple struggles happening with the San Diego State offense and things, but obviously I picked it up. When he got fired, it wasn't so much of, I'm going to decommit. It was just having to see what would happen, because it's my future. So making the best decision for myself. I didn't want to just decommit off of him getting fired just alone, because, you never know what happens. So I decided to stick it out, and it all worked out for the good. So, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you made some fans nervous when you tweeted out an offer from Tulane that came out. But, you mentioned the stress of it and talking with different recruits and things like that. It's not always the most honest game either. How quickly after Coach Heck was let go did other programs start to get in contact with you and try to, I guess, flip you and change your mind on San Diego State?
To be honest, it wasn't like that fast, because schools, that was like in the middle of our season, and then school started. Once our season ended, they seen how well like my season went for me my senior year. I think that's when they started to reach out more, and then just them saying that Coach Heck got fired, it just kind of motivated them more to see if they can flip me or not. But so it really didn't happen that fast. It happened towards the end, like towards getting closer to signing day.
You mentioned Coach Lindley called you as soon as he got the job. He's obviously a former Aztec quarterback, put up a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. What can you tell us about him and the relationship you built with him really quickly?
He's great. I love that guy, man. I trust him with everything, especially what he did with Moose Maiden and Jalen Maiden with the short amount of time he had. He looked great. He made him look good on the field and everything. And he doesn't take credit for anything. He's actually about the players and stuff. So, I love our relationship. My parents love him and everything. So, yeah.
Obviously the offense, you mentioned Moose coming into quarterback and kind of resurrecting the offense after the poor start. What has the staff told you about the direction of the offense moving forward in 2023 and beyond?
I think they're pretty much, what I got is they're pretty much going to do this, try to do the same thing they did with these last couple of games, but obviously elevate more. And I feel like they're going to be able to do that, especially with Maiden getting as much experience as he has. So yeah, I think they're just kind of trying to move in the same direction, but even like further.
Yeah, we had Coach Lindley on the podcast earlier in May when he was still over at Mississippi State, and all those things that you just mentioned came across. Just who he is and being for his players and everything like that. But you also mentioned earlier that when you came on your official visit, that everything kind of just felt right and everything was what you wanted out of a school. Could you take us just through some of those highlights? Who was your host, etc.?
My host was Isaiah, the safety.
McElvey?
Yeah. And then, I mean, I already knew the quarterback, Leo, freshman quarterback, and then DJ Bryan and all of them, Dom. Like, it's just everything with all the players, all accepted me into it pretty much. And I was already kind of set on San Diego State before I even went on the visit. So it was more of, I want to commit to a school with my family, my whole family being there, like on an official visit and everything like that. I didn't just want to do it over a phone. So that's kind of how that worked. I was just waiting to take the visit. And then even when I went on the visit, everything was just perfect. It all worked out. Even like the other kids, other recruits on the visit, built relationships with them. I still talk to them throughout the whole season and everything. Yeah, it was just really fun. And especially seeing the new stadium and everything before everybody else got to see it. So everything was just a plus.
It's amazing. So for people who haven't seen you play, how would you describe your game?
I feel I have a strong arm. Obviously, there's things that I need to work on. Everybody needs to work on. Nobody's perfect, but I have a strong arm. I can make plays happen even if nothing is open or anything. I can scramble, do stuff with my feet that other people can't do. I feel like I'm a student of the game. I got this past season. I elevated my knowledge of football really well. Like my coach Coach Machuga helped me get up there. So, and I feel like when I get to college, it's even going to be better. So, I feel like I can bring all those things to the table.
Yeah, you mentioned this past year, your high school Chaminade was a 19th ranked team in California. What was that senior season like for you as you kind of progressed into the playoffs?
I mean, it was surreal. We started off 8-0. So obviously anybody would want to wish that. It didn't end how we wanted to. We lost in the semifinals, but I feel we did a lot of good things, especially with all the players we had and all the coaches. All the effort we put in since January. I feel like it came out and showed in every game that we played, even in the losses. Just picked our head up. We ended our regular season with 2 losses, but we still came out a big overtime win in the first round, and then came and handled the second round. And obviously we lost in the third round, but I mean, it was still a hard-fought game. We lost by 3 points. So, I mean, it was my best season so far. I'm very grateful for everything that happened in it, and wouldn't change anything about it.
Well, you mentioned earlier there are, obviously things you want to improve. What is it that you're necessarily looking at parts of your game that are looking to kind of elevate?
I know I said I gained knowledge about football and all that, reading defense and stuff, but I need to do more of that. Watch more film, obviously, and just understand the more pre-snap, post-snap reads and all that. And obviously, my mechanics, I feel like I can get better. Sometimes I fall off a little bit, not standing strong sometimes, but I mean, those are things I can get fixed in the off season. So just things like that.
I want to know a little bit more about that high school season. You like you said, you guys started 8-0, you lose your last 2, and then in the playoffs, man, you have 2 overtime games. The first one, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these details, but I believe the first one, you go down there and score field goals, straight field goals. Second overtime, you score a touchdown. There's a penalty after they score again on the extra point, so they decide to go for 2. Mm-hmm. And you all are able to stop them, and you advance.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like they were like on the 1 yard line or even half yard line, and then they've been running the ball. They ran the ball good all game, so shout out to them. And then they ran it, but our guys was just in the right spot, and so we got to stop, and we won by I think it was one or 2. I don't remember, but yeah, that was a crazy game.
So I mean, tell me, how do you feel like those pressure experiences, bouncing back after, losing 2 at the end of the regular season to win 2 in the playoffs? How do you feel like that's shaping you as a player heading into San Diego State?
I mean, I feel like it helps a lot, just knowing that I'm able to bounce back and not just, if I'm at my peak and then something bad happens, I don't just go down. I still can recover from things like that. Just being able to be a leader in those type of situations. So I think that helped me a lot, especially with being a leader, for sure. Just trying to pick up my teammates, because obviously if I'm down, nobody else is going to be up. So, yeah, just doing my best I can, just things like that. So.
And when are you planning on being on campus at San Diego State?
June. I think that's when I'm moving in. I graduate in May, so yeah, June.
Very cool. So there's also been a lot of buzz recently about conference realignment. San Diego State possibly moving back 12, possibly moving Big 12, possibly staying where they're at. I mean, are you following all of those kinds of things, and what are your general thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, I've been following, especially my dad. My dad's kind of big on football in general. I probably wouldn't be here without him. But so yeah, I mean, I've been following it, seeing both Pac-12 and Big 12. They mentioned some things to me, but I don't think anything. I mean, it hasn't been finalized yet, so we'll see what happens. I'm not really. I mean, it'll be great to go to one of those conferences, but even if we stayed in the Mountain West, I don't think I wasn't thinking about that when I committed, so it doesn't really affect me in how I go about things. So.
Earlier, you mentioned about obviously Moose and Liu, and Kyle Crum is another quarterback on there. Those guys have a reputation for being outstanding teammates. What are your thoughts about joining them in June for 2023 and beyond?
I can't wait. I mean, obviously they're all, even though obviously it's a competition, everybody's competing, but I know there's always great spirits. Even Coach Lane always tells me they're always joking and stuff. And even before, when Coach Heck was the coach, I know he would tell me that all the quarterbacks would just come and sit in his room and talk, even if there's no meeting or anything required. So, I mean, I can't wait. This past quarterback room I was in with my high school, I mean, it was great communicating with them, even if just helping each other out. So, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great. I already know.
Yeah, talking a little bit more about what Jalen Mayden did, we've asked everyone we could, former NFL players to coaches on the staff to current players, if they've ever seen anything like what Jalen Mayden did, going from quarterback to safety, start playing safety, 65 snaps, and then 2 weeks later going back and playing quarterback, throwing 300 yards. What was it like from your perspective, knowing that you were coming to this team, watching him and seeing how well he played down the stretch?
I mean, it gave me a lot of hope, because I feel like we have some similarities in our game, me and Mayden. So I feel like it gave me a lot of hope for sure. And my parents, I was just saying what the offense can bring to the table with like the right pieces in it. So that was a great upside, seeing him come in and take over.
You played basketball in high school as well. What kind of basketball player were you?
I really could play anywhere. I don't know. I stopped playing after my freshman year. COVID and everything happened, and then once I started getting scholarships in football, I kind of just focused on that. I didn't want to get hurt, injured, or anything. So, but basketball, I like basketball. I actually like basketball more than football at once. So, I was a pretty good basketball player. So, yeah.
Nice.
You just said that you see a lot of similarities between your game and Jalen's game. Just from your perspective, what are those things?
Like I said before, me being able to extend the play and stuff, I've seen him do that multiple times, making things happen with his legs, and even throwing. He throws a great ball. I know he had to get used to it got to get used to it throwing again, but once he got it, he was doing what he could do. So.
Right on, man. So we got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Let Aztec Nation get to know you a little bit. So what's your favorite food?
Hoagie. It's I don't know if you guys know, but I mean, I'm from the Bay Area, from Oakland, so there's a place out here called Mills Hoagies that I just had it 30 minutes ago. It's the first thing I've ever had.
So is this something you just had for the first time?
No,
it's your spot.
No, it's my spot. I've been having it since probably 5, 8. Oh. It's my favorite spot. I mean, it's only one in the world. So,
what kind of food is it?
It's a Mills Hoagie. It's like a sandwich kind of. It's like a, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a steak sandwich. It's really good though. Might have to bring you guys one.
There you go. There you go. Bet.
We like
So,
food.
what's your favorite movie or TV show?
Movie, I'd say Avatar. You know, the second one just came out. I haven't watched it yet, but Avatar is favorite movie growing up.
Yeah. Are you familiar with, do you like The Office?
I've heard about The Office. My friends watch it. Like my friends watch it. I haven't really watched it, but I heard it's good.
Okay, the reason I ask is because about a year ago, the first episode of this podcast, we had Liu, Amavai, and Kyle Crum both on here, and we did the same kind of questions. And within 20 minutes of each other, they both said that their favorite TV show was The Office. So I'm just if you want to start prepping, for those things, because they're kind of the big brothers now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was your favorite musical artist or group?
I like NBA YoungBoy. I kind of listen to everything. I like NBA YoungBoy. And then I know a lot of people. There's this female artist named SZA. She just came out a new album. I like her a lot too. So those two I've probably been listening to the most. They're like complete opposite, but I like them both. So
when you say you can listen to anything, is that like legit? I mean, you listen to classical music, to country music, to
yeah. My mom plays a lot of country music in the car, or like she was growing up. So I like country music. I recently just started listening to jazz for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but
there you go.
It's a vibe, especially with it raining now. Just sitting there listening to some jazz, it helps calm my nerves. So, yeah.
Jalen Maiden is known for being a big jazz guy, so that's you guys, that's quarterback bonding right there.
There it is. The Office and jazz. How about, who's your favorite professional athlete?
Marcus Mariota was my favorite growing up. So,
what is it that you like about his game?
Well, I started watching him when I was really young. Him being a Polynesian quarterback, I'm half Polynesian. First Polynesian to win the Heisman, actually. So, I mean, my whole game was modeled after him. I watched his highlights every day growing up. Try to do things he did when he was at Oregon. And obviously things didn't go as planned in the NFL, but he's still my favorite of all time. The reason I kind of play quarterback.
It's awesome. How about your favorite hobby?
Probably, I don't know. I played guitar for a little bit, and then I stopped doing that. But I stopped doing that. I haven't had time to really get back into it. But I think that would probably be my favorite thing I was doing, learning songs and stuff.
That sounds awesome. And what area of study or major are you thinking about at San Diego State?
I haven't really made the decision or thought about it like that, but I still got to talk to my parents about what would kind of be the best situation for me. But yeah, maybe business or something like that. I don't know yet.
Yeah, no, it's always a hard question, right? I mean, it's you're graduating high school in a couple of months, man. That was absolutely fantastic. Those are our rapid questions, man. Great interview, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time, Javance. We definitely look forward to seeing you get to campus and seeing you out there at some practices and once the game starts in the fall.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right, Paul, that was our interviews with two outstanding young men who are entering San Diego State program in 2023. Let's start with Salahuddin. One thing we should point out is we recorded that interview with him at the end of last week, which is obviously before the announcement from BYU that Coach Enna had moved on to become the linebackers coach at BYU. So obviously we asked him about Coach Enna, and he talked about Coach Enna, but that was before the announcement. So just wanted to let our viewers and listeners know that San Diego State had been talking to him when he was in high school and actually recommended him to go the JUCO route. And then his transparency about how he was not happy with how he played his freshman year. And, basically this past year was his make it or break it year if he wanted to make it to Division I. So, that transparency was really, obviously welcomed. And what did you make of the interview?
Well, I mean, I think there's always a difference, I feel like, when you talk to a JUCO guy versus talking to a high school guy. JUCO ball is hard, man. To be able to stay with it, to play at a level, it takes a commitment. I mean, people are not, for lack of a better word, there's no hand holding that takes place at the JUCO level. You either go after it or you don't. You miss class, and there's not going to be there's not a grad assistant who's going around doing bed check. You know what I mean? Like some of that's there, but definitely not to the level that they're going to get at San Diego State. And so I think just seeing that maturity from him, as being a little bit older, it's interesting to catch him, on a day that he's moving and he's
Yeah.
on campus and he's already starting that process. I thought it was really interesting, just the confidence that he has in himself. I asked him about, just the lull between that usually transpires between somebody at the JC level. And he's like, well, this is why, right? It's much more of a grind at the D1 level, but I'm used to it. And I don't expect that to be, I have a redshirt year, but I don't anticipate using it. And so I thought just that confidence level is important because probably as much as anything, that's what he's going to need to be able to be successful, because he's going to run into a wake-up call, I think, of just, okay, this is a step up in competition. This is faster. There are more things they're asking me to do. And if he can stay true to the confidence that he clearly has, I definitely could see him being in the rotation for, a very depleted defensive line in 2023.
I was going to say what we talked a little bit about when we interviewed Brady Natzer on the last episode, of how he's an incoming freshman, and a lot of freshmen don't play defensive line typically at San Diego State, but 3 starters are gone. There's a lot of opportunities for everybody, whether you're an incoming true freshman or you're a JUCO transfer. And I think he also fits into this because he's 2 years removed from high school. He's played at the JUCO level. He's got size, at least with the length and height. And so we could potentially see him, crack the rotation as either, starter or backup defensive end. I think he knows that he's going to have that opportunity. And obviously, as you mentioned, he doesn't want to use that red shirt. He wants to play right away. And he'll be here for spring camp, which will give him obviously a leg up over maybe some of the freshmen that won't. So we'll have to see how spring camp goes. Coach Enna wasn't here that long, right? He was hired in March, right before spring camp, or maybe late February. So he was here about 10 months. But this is a huge year for defensive line, given all starters are gone. And I'm curious to see how Brady Hoke handles that role. We know Brady Hoke is technically a de facto defensive line coach. In addition to being a head coach, does he not fill that position? Does he bring somebody in? Because I think it's a tough position. A lot of young guys, they need development that maybe a head coach doesn't have time for, that a defensive line position coach would. Well, how do you think he's going to handle that?
I would be surprised if he doesn't bring in somebody, because he's not only losing a defensive line coach, but he's also losing the grad assistant, Mike Lennon, who I think he went and is at Missouri now. That's what he did for 2 years. He worked with the line. So, they had those 3. Last year, those 3, plus Leroy Glover. They've had a lot of coaching at that, a lot of different minds, a lot of different people coming in there. But I think you would have to bring somebody else in. And I think the reason people were, theorizing that maybe Hoke could handle both of them is because of the numbers game on the offensive side, right? Trying to figure out the musical chairs of how to use the 10 assistants, and can you have a full-time quarterbacks coach? Can Horton stay on the staff as the running back coach? And then could they have this, magical offensive coordinator who's out there who, won't be a position coach? I mean, I think a lot of that kind of stuff is what people were wondering. So I definitely think that they'll fill this position, or that would seem to me to make the most sense. And if not, I don't fully grasp how much of like the day-to-day stuff he did versus what Enna did. Like, I know on the practice field, you would definitely see him over there the most, but he also makes his rounds. while he's more involved with the defensive line, he also does all of his head coaches stuff. It's not like it's the only position that he goes and watches. And, when there's people that need to be seen, he makes sure that he's watching every single one of those people in the drills, talking about Coach Hoke and stuff like that. So there is a void there for sure. But it's not a bad time to have this happen. And they're going to be, I think, as far as Talib is just the idea that he's going to be able to step into like a full off season, right? That he's gonna be there with Coach Hall, going to be able to be bigger and stronger and faster than he's ever been in his life. How all that works together is going to be just like the offensive line this year, and it never stopped being a story. It never stopped being a question, or maybe the question wasn't what people are wanted it to be. That front six is going to be the question, one of the questions for the defense, especially I think all season. And this is a piece that they're clearly counting on because he's an older player, and there's a need, and see what happens.
There is the college football coaches convention is this weekend and into early next week.
Right.
I asked SDSU Media Relations today whether we should expect any kind of coaching staff news this week, and essentially was told they would probably come after the convention. So most likely we'll hopefully hear something next week or beyond, but I doubt it's going to be anything prior to this weekend. So we'll be on standby to hear, because it's not just the defensive line, but it's also the offensive coordinator role, whether Horton was supposed to be interim. We know about Ryan Lindley's potential status. So I think all of that stuff, hopefully we'll have more clarity on towards, middle to the end of next week. What about Javance Johnson? What were your thoughts on talking to that incoming freshman quarterback?
It was nice to talk to him after he had signed, because if we had a conversation with him prior to signing day, I would have been like, wait a second. So this is what I understand this. You have religious connections to BYU. Your favorite player is Marcus Mariota. You really hit it off, everything you like State, but the coach who recruited you isn't there anymore. Why are you coming to SDSU? Right? And the fact that San Diego State was able to get this kid, I think is for everyone looking and hoping that the new stadium, all of the investment that they put under the coach, the recruiting emphasis and prowess of Brady Hoke, being able to bring in somebody like Ryan Lindley, right? It writes itself very well that this is, the all-time leading everything quarterback-wise at San Diego State. This is a guy from San Diego, a guy who loves San Diego, who understands it better. Who better to present the program, its past, its present, its future, than Ryan Lindley? And people looking to see that all of that actually played out in a positive way can look no further than Javance. And so I think that it was just, more than anything, it's remarkable that San Diego State was able to land him to begin with. And then through all of the turmoil, through, 65 yards average passing for the first, whatever odd games of the season, to Jalen Maiden turning the season around, throwing the ball all over the place, 2,000 yards season from the quarterback, Ryan Lindley, and they keep the highest rated quarterback recruit that they've ever had. I think it is pretty special, and a very positive sign for people looking to see what Snapdragon could mean to the future of the program.
He told us flat out, when he heard about the news about Coach Heck, that he could have decommitted, but he didn't want to. He wanted to give that San Diego State a chance to see how they were going to move forward.
Yeah.
That tells me that as much as Coach Heck played a part into that recruiting, and we know he did, that he didn't just commit to San Diego State because of Coach Heck. Right. He loved everything else about them. And he was willing to give them the opportunity to say, okay, well, this is our plan moving forward. You're still a big part of it, as we know Coach Lindley called him right away. Mm-hmm. And I think that says a lot about the program and the culture, and not just one coach recruiting, one position coach, one coordinator recruiting a quarterback. We have this thought that is Jalen Mayden in 2023, right, as a quarterback. And I think that's what the plan is. But look no further than 2022 and figure out, remember what happened with the quarterback, right? You got a transfer, Power 5 starting quarterback transfer coming in.
Right.
He only plays 5, right? Will Haskell transfers. Kyle and Liu end up playing snaps in pivotal games, at Boise and at Utah. And then a safety, former quarterback turned safety, comes back to quarterback. Like we talk about, Liu and Kyle and Javance, competing and looking forward to 2024. And I think that's the right message. But these guys could be playing next year. There could be an injury, maybe
100%. 100%.
A letdown. There's a lot that can happen in a season, as I just explained, happened in 2022. So, these guys will be battling and competing just like Javance said, but there's definite possibility that they'll get snaps in 2023 for some reason or another.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And it's, you try to do any sort of projections, even into 2024, any of the stuff. And the landscape is just completely different, right? I mean, the rumors of San Diego State being in the Pac-12, and we're asking every single recruit, like, how did that transpire? How did that work out? How did the staff talk about it, et cetera? And, and they're echoing what Craig Smith told us, that they're trying to be very factual and they're trying to do those things about, here's the reports and all that kind of stuff. If it works out the way that it seemingly going in the direction of, right, 2024, San Diego State could have one of the most desirable destinations for quarterbacks anywhere, right? Because you're going to have presumably a starter who needs to be there. And so, it's a transfer or maybe a young guy who's, a 4-star guy who really wants to come in and be able to compete as a freshman. But like you said, it doesn't happen that way. And I think these guys, the competition that is going to be happening this year with those 3 freshman quarterbacks, even if Mayden goes the direction of continuing to do what he does positively and stopping the turnovers, and once he does that, he becomes a very good college quarterback. I would argue that his total body of work, because of the turnovers, was not as good as Johnson and Brookshire in 2021 because they took care of the ball. Like it's that big of a deal. You cannot turn over the football. But that said, he played safety for 10 months. Like, it was expected that it would show up some way. And going back to Javance, I think that the thing that was the most, the article that I wrote, the comment that came out the most was a lot of trepidation, right? Like, didn't we hear that Will Haskell was this? And the only thing that I can tell you is that from a pure passing standpoint in high school, and maybe even like today, Javance is ahead as a passer where Will Haskell was. And, his passing to running numbers are, 2-1. It was, you don't see him just like running circles around defenses on a consistent basis. He definitely has that in his game. His throwing motion is a lot more conventional. I think a good comparison, just because they're big guys, is Culpepper. Remember him from the Vikings? Just that overhand, just that really like kind of a little bit of a longer, but just really powerful. Does it in good time. Has an idea and a feel for where the defense is. You see him throwing behind receivers intentionally, things that are just, a little next level, a little bit of that. And, him coming in as people looking for a sign that there's a little bit more to it, I think it's his ability as a passer, the touch that he has, the ability to take some off of the ball when he needs to, not always throwing a million miles an hour, but then when he needs to, he can do that. So I think that he's not, I would not expect him, if there was a QB competition, to beat out Kyle Crum, to beat out Liu. I would not expect that. It wouldn't shock me in a year if he was right there answering in that competition with them.
Yeah, as I said, Aztecs had 5 quarterbacks take snaps in games this year. So anything can happen. I saw some of that Will Haskell commentary as well as we've heard, and I think how you explained it is probably pretty much how I feel as well. Until they get on the field, until they get into the program, we're gonna see, right? Jalen Maiden was a 4-star recruit out of high school and had to transfer from an SEC school to a Mountain West school, right? And we obviously know how long it took him and the story between him coming here and becoming an actual starter at quarterback. So it's a lot is going to be made once he gets here in the summer and fall camp and practices during the season, because that's the big part of the development is practicing scout team, things like that. I'm excited about the quarterback room. Whether it comes to fruition or not, we'll see. But there's a lot of talented guys in that room.
I agree, and I think that was some of the best part is just the description of that quarterback room. The fact that talking with like Jordan Brookshire and things like that when we interviewed him, he would talk about how it's a competition, but then when they would leave, it was about life, it was about friendship, it was about that camaraderie. Each person cheered for the other person, even though they were competing against each other. And I think you can already see that dynamic at work at SDSU. And, if you're a young guy and being able to be mentored and get to watch the approach that a person like Jalen Maiden brings to just what he does. I mean, the respect that he has throughout the team for being selfless. And, people have asked questions. What do you think a year of working at quarterback is going to mean for him? And I'm like, well, this is a guy who completely reworked his body and jumped players who their entire life has been spent as a DB to get onto the field, not just because, there was an injury and then a targeting. Obviously, that's why he got the majority of snaps, but he played week 1 as a spy against Arizona, right? That was what he did. And for him to be able to do that, I mean, I think Jatavius McGee, as an example, is going to be a good football player. When he runs around on the field, you go, oh, who's that kid, And he was able to supplant him on the depth chart. That's impressive. And I think the work to learn a new position, talking to Coach Maddox, oh, hey, what about Jalen Maiden? Everybody wants to know about him being safety. Well, we'll see if he can put his head in there and hit people. Well, he clearly answered that, and he clearly did that enough that Maddox trusted him to play him. And so if you're willing to work that hard and you put that same work ethic now back into being a quarterback, which I'm sure he's done his entire life, and then Javance gets to see that and gets to see that's how a person at super senior, that's how you work. This is how you are a teammate. This is how you carry yourself. This is how you have a team first approach. I think it's a great situation for them to be able to come into, to be able to develop into. And I think last kind of general comment for me about Javance, I think it was really very apparent by his responses how important his family is to him. Maybe the final answer about whether or not why he came to San Diego State versus all this other kind of stuff is because it's not that far from home. He would talk about, I kind of thought that San Diego State was going to be where I wanted to do it, but I wanted to be in person with my parents and do the commitment that way. Me and my parents, we both love and trust Ryan Lindley. Being able to be in a place to listen to other people and to know the value of that, I think is really, really helpful, because if everything goes to plan, this is your best player at some point. If everything goes to plan, whether it's after Kyle or Liu, start a couple of years and then they go and do their thing and now he takes over, however it works out, at some point, a person of, who has this kind of upbringing and character and all of that is the face and leader of your program. And so I think, again, you never know, it's projection, but San Diego State hit a home run with being able to bring him to the Mesa.
The biggest news in the last week, non-Hawaii Bowl aspect was Jesse Matthews making it official, entering the NFL draft instead of coming back for a super senior season. That was what I expected. Definitely left a glimmer of hope for that he would come back. But I think part of the reasoning that he gave in some of the interviews he had on that day made a lot of sense about how, he had put in the years and the work and was ready for the next step. And another season at San Diego State wouldn't necessarily help or improve that draft stock potentially. So, the story of Jesse Matthews will live on, I think, in Aztec lore, walk on to star wide receiver, the type of person he is. I feel fortunate to get to cover him for the 2 years we did because he definitely was a leader. He was a captain this year. Definitely did things the right way. And we'll miss him, but we'll be excited to see where hopefully we'll see him on Sundays next year.
I agree. And, it's kind of funny. You mentioned that poor Mekhi Shaw, right? I mean, you can talk about living in Jesse Matthews' shadow. If Mekhi Shaw does not become Jesse Matthews, and you know what I mean? Like it's as if what he did, because he made it look so easy. It's remarkable. I mean, we've had the chance to be up next to him, to shake his hand. He's not Tyrell Shavers. You know what I mean? He's not somebody who's, Mark Redmond or Daniel Bellinger, who's just these like massive human beings that you go, you should play football, right? I mean, there's nothing about him that screams like, I have maybe the best hands on the planet. I mean, nothing is there that would suggest that. And so for him to be able to do what he's done is truly remarkable. He's obviously, very insightful at any press conferences, very polite, all of those things. But for a hometown kid to be able to do this, I think is remarkable. I think it really hurts San Diego State in 2023. I mean, I know that goes without saying, probably, but if he comes back, your really only big question in terms of position groups would be running back. Now you have running back and wide receiver. And so how they're going to try to find replacements, things like that, is going to be that story going forward. But the story now is Jesse Matthews and what was able to do at San Diego State. And I think potentially the tragic part about Jesse Matthews is that he never had like an insane quarterback to be able to throw him the ball. And you look at, the way all the other players who are on the record books above him in terms of, yardage, etc. They either had where, J.R. Tolver, who we had on the podcast, when he was there, he was the de facto running back. Him and Kasim Osgood were basically the running backs. They would just throw the ball out, bubble screen, and get 4 yards. Like that. That's what they did. So I mean, they had so many opportunities, and they ran that offense so well that they just had opportunities that Jesse never had. And you look through his entire career, and every year there was a new quarterback. He never worked with the same person that you were like, this is your established person, your established QB. Carson Baker would be the closest to that, who had all of one start the year before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to say Jordan Brookshire, I mean, he didn't have it. I think that's the only part of it, is I think that there was a lot more success that Jesse Matthews should have had at San Diego State. And I think as like we're seeing with Daniel Bellinger in the NFL and the creativity and the way, I mean, his bread and butter is the way that he was used at San Diego State, blocking, creative blocking, all that stuff. But man, you're seeing, I mean, that catch for a first down that he made this past Sunday where he had somebody hanging on his back, or the way that they were able to wheel him out into that, but that part of it that you're just going, where was that? I think that you're going to see a lot of that with Jesse Matthews too, because I think he's got what a lot of these receivers have, which is, he can run good routes, but if you put a ball near him, he's going to come down with it more often than not. So, we wish him the best, and hopefully maybe we can get in contact with him and see how his draft process is going.
Yeah, you mentioned Daniel Belger, but shout out to him, playoff bound as a rookie.
Playoff bound, yes.
After a midseason facial surgery, came back from that. I thought that was going to be a season ender. I mean, as a rookie, but he made it back, playoff bound. Very good possibility that they're playing Kevin O'Connell in the wild card round. So it's going to be a San Diego State dilemma, rooting for Bellinger or Kevin O'Connell. That's pretty much how I think it's going to play out with the 3-6 matchup. So that'll be interesting. That's going to do it for us. It's our first episode of 2023. Hope you guys enjoyed the 2 interviews. We've got more interviews coming up in upcoming episodes with more new aspects. So definitely check out that. Make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and all of your favorite audio podcast platforms so you'll get notified as soon as a new episode is released. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.